الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. Every word that the human being utters, there is an overlooker and one that is prepared to document it, to write it, to note it down. And that happens very quickly, simultaneously. Every word that a human being utters is forever put into their record of deeds. And on the Day of Judgment, just like people will see all their deeds in their record, they will also see all their words. So when it will be said, اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا, read your own record of deeds. You alone are enough to make a judgment about yourself, but where these deeds should take you. So even though this will be one of the most frightening instructions, it will be the last thing that a person wants to do, is to read their own book of deeds. But while they will be reading it, they will also be reading all the words that they said. Every single word that we speak, it is there. So the book of deeds, just like it records all our actions, it is also a transcript of everything that we said in our lives. Now, what will we find there when we start reading this transcript of things that we said? How much of it will be useful? How much of it will be useless? How much of it will be beneficial? How much of it will be harmful? These are 4 general categories of speech that we say. There is that which is useful, and it is more beneficial than it is harmful. Then there is that which is more harmful than it is useful. Then there is that speech which is purely beneficial, and that speech which is purely harmful. These are 4 general categories, and within these are subcategories of speech. As far as what is purely harmful, it is like poison. A person needs to stay away from it in any amount. That includes words of curses, swear words, insults, saying something that is against the glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying something that is against the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, swearing and putting down another person. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Sibabul muslimi fusuqun wa qitaluhu kufr." To swear at a Muslim is it's an open act of disobedience, fusuq. So these are those things. Included in that is ghiba, backbiting, namima, tale-bearing or rumor spreading to cause trouble, lies, all of those speeches, all of those types of talks which have been condemned in our deen. Then there are those talks that are both beneficial and maybe they're harmful, but the harm outweighs the benefit. So these talks also must be avoided because the harm will undo the benefit. A person is having a normal conversation, and in that conversation there is something negative, there is something with a negative undertone. A person is talking about their life, but at the same time they're complaining about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that element of harm will outweigh the benefit. And that talk will be something that will be used against them. Then there is that talk which is more beneficial than it is harmful. There's lots of beneficial things in it, but there is something that is doubtful, something that it's an element that should not be there. In the previous one, that element was more. In this one, that element is less. So here also, the element of harm will undo whatever benefit there is. Now we're left with only one type of speech. उनको कहें वो भी 2 घंटे तरावियां पढ़ाएं देखते हैं उनकी आवाज कैसे निकलती है We're left with only one type of speech that we're allowed to say. In the hadith, only one type of speech has been allowed for us. من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت. Anyone who believes in Allah and the last day must only say that which is purely good. The only other option is silence. If a person truly believes in Allah and the last day, then only good will come out of their mouth, otherwise there will be silence. Not an easy thing to do. This is why Sahaba radiallahu anhum were so afraid of their own words, of what their words might cost them. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was often seen in a corner by himself, pulling his tongue and saying, هَذَا الَّذِي أَوْرَدَنِيَ الْمَوَارِدِ. If there is something that could lead to my doom, something that could destroy me, it's this tongue. Something that I might have said, I might not even have thought about it, but it just came out. And it's true, because the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that إن العبد لا يتكلم بالكلمة من رضوان الله لا يلقي لها بالا يكتب الله بها رضوانه إلى يوم يلقاه. Sometimes a person says something at the right time, says the right thing at the right time. It is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes so pleased that He puts a stamp, a seal of His pleasure, of His ridwan on that person until the Day of Judgment. Go, I am pleased with you, and when I meet you on that day, I will be pleased with you. Subhanallah. But on the other side, وَإِنَّ الْعَبْدَ لَا يَتَكَلَّمُ بِالْكَلِمَةِ مِنْ سَخَطِ اللَّهِ. Sometimes a person says something that displeases Allah, the wrong thing at the wrong time. And that word of theirs is so displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah puts a stamp of His displeasure on that person. I am displeased with you, and I will be displeased until that day I see you on the Day of Judgment. It was a phrase, it was a statement that this person made. In one hadith it's mentioned that sometimes by one phrase, by one kalima, a person falls into Jahannam deeper than the distance between the heavens and the earth. أَبْعَدَ مَا بَيْنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu asked Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that, O Prophet of Allah, أَإِنَّا لَمُؤَاخَذُونَ. Will we be taken to account for what our tongues say? So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, ثَكِلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ يَا مُعَاذ وَهَلْ يَكُبُّ النَّاسَ عَلَى مَنَاخِرِهِمْ فِي جَهَنَّمْ إِلَّا حَصَائِدُ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. What's wrong with you, Mu'adh? What else will throw people nose first into Jahannam? Because people will be dragged on their faces. People will be dragged on their faces, grabbed by the angels will grab them by their feet, turn them upside down, and they'll be dragged on their faces to the pit of Jahannam and thrown face first. He says, what else? إِلَّا حَصَائِدُ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. But the harvests of their tongues. Hasa'id, hasida, is the crop that has been reaped. Hasad is to cut the crop, to harvest the crop. So these are the harvests of their tongues. As if every time a person is saying something, they're planting a seed. And on the Day of Judgment, the plants that they have grown through these seeds will be harvested. So those who said wrong things, they planted bad plants, these will be taken and put into their scale of bad deeds. Those who said good things, they planted good plants, these will also be put into their scale of good deeds. So most people will end up into Jahannam because of something that they said. This is enough as a warning for us. Our difficulty is that we don't view our speech as a amal. We just view it as a talk. That's it, I'm just talking. But if we imagined every speech of ours as a amal, as a deed, now I'm going to do this deed. I'm not just going to say some words. I am about to go and perform this deed. Now what happens whenever we perform a deed? We check our intention. What is my intention? And intention is not enough. Is what I'm doing actually correct? Does it conform to the book of Allah and the teachings of His Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam or not? Or is there something in here that is contradictory? Yani just like we try to correct our salat by fixing our salat from beginning to end, we need to fix our speech from beginning to end. But because we don't pay attention to this, we spend our lives, we go on saying things, just saying things. And a lot of it is useless. A lot of it is irrelevant. Many of the discussions that people will have on the Day of Judgment will not bear any good. Look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس. Most of the private conversations that people have, they have no good in them, no khair. Except for those people who hold a gathering or they have, a sitting in privacy for promoting some good. أمر بمعروف أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس. Secretly, quietly, they're trying to arrange some charitable cause. They're trying to facilitate it. They're trying to do something that's going to help someone. Or they're getting together, planning on how can we revive such and such command of Allah. Such and such commandment of Allah is being broken. What can we do to change it? أو إصلاح بين الناس. Or two people are at odds, they're in a conflict. How can we repair the ties? Make them friends again. These are the only three majalis that Allah says there is khair in. Otherwise, most of the other majalis, Allah says there is no khair in them. And in one hadith, كُلُّ كَلَامِ ابْنِ آدَمَ عَلَيْهِ لَا لَهُ. Every kalam, every speech of Ibn Adam will be against him and not in his favor, except for a few types of speeches. أمر بمعروف أو نهي عن منكر أو ذكر الله. That talk which is used to promote good, that talk which is used to forbid from evil, or the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our tongues. So this is why when we look at the life of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even though he was the greatest da'i who came into the world, the greatest muslih, he is described as being taweel as-samt. He would stay silent for long periods. If he did not absolutely have to speak, he just would not. And when he spoke, it was the remembrance of Allah, it was inviting towards good, forbidding from evil, conveying the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to people. So in the month of Ramadan, this should also be one of our goals, just like we are trying to improve other areas of our deen. This is a very important area of our deen that needs special attention. And it is that area of deen from which we are all at risk. Every single one of us. If Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is berating himself and so afraid of what his tongue might get him into, then who are we and what are we? Now this habit of just talking to pass time, this is not a habit from the habits of Islam. Just talking to pass time. No. This is why one of our mashayikh, the shaykh of our mashayikh, Mawlana Muhammad Zakaria Sahib rahimahullah, in his i'tikaf, he had one rule that he would not compromise. He would say, when people were coming for i'tikaf, he would say, look, my beloved brothers, he used to address people, he used to say, Mere pyaro, my beloved brothers, my dear friends, I have no restrictions on sleeping or eating. Eat as much as you want. Yani in iftar and in suhoor, you eat as much as you want. No one's going to say anything to you. You want to sleep, you sleep as much as you want. But I will not tolerate majalis of people sitting down and having discussions. Absolutely. If I see people sitting down and just talking, having conversations, making conversation, I will tell them to please get up and go. Because they knew how this undoes all our good deeds and how shaitan uses us to waste so much of our time. So one of the simple ways to increase our good deeds is to decrease our talk, the useless talk in our lives. It will free up our minds and free up our time for doing what we really should be doing. And let's get into the habit of holding ourselves accountable for what we say. This is why we find people in the Salaf who would write down everything that they said during the day and then look at it at night time. They would make notes. I said this, I said this, I said this. One person went to someone's house and it was after Asr, knocked on the person's door and they said he was sleeping. And he said, who sleeps after Asr? He said that and he left. Then for several hours he said, why did you have to say that? What was the need for saying this? What did you get? What did someone else get? Why did you make this useless comment? And he continuously made muhasabah of himself and made istighfar over and over and over again for saying this one sentence that there was absolutely no need for. So this is why, respected brothers and dear sisters, there are many, many ways to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But most of them involve getting rid of what is not needed from our lives. We need to get rid of those things from our lives in order to make room for all of these pathways. Many, many pathways leading to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So many ways to win Jannah. So many ways to win the ridwan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We just need to make room in our lives. And one of the ways is to get rid of that which is needless. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to use our tongues only in the way that He has told us in His book and in the way that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has instructed us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our tongues engaged in His remembrance and in those talks that win the pleasure of Allah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make these tongues a means of uniting people and a means of healing people's hearts. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from using our tongues to hurt people and to break hearts and to break up friendships or to say anything that is displeasing to Him that would be a source of detriment for us in dunya or akhirah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in.